What internet marketing expert should you spend your valuable time listening to? Listen to someone who has over 20 years of web marketing experience and hundreds of website marketing success stories. That man is Aaron Sparks from Site Strategics. And this is Edge of the Web Radio.
Hey, we were continuing our news from the last segment. This warrants a bit of a discussion here. Before we get into mobile tips, we want to talk about net neutrality. This is an article from the Los Angeles Times, and written by a gentleman, let's see here. Well, I'll catch his name here in a second. Net neutrality is dead. It says, bow to Comcast and Verizon, you're now your new overlords. And basically, the article is regarding the a ruling that has come through. Advocates of a free and open internet could actually have been seeing this coming, but from a Washington appeals court, they have actually stricken down the FCC's ruling protecting an open net. That's actually causing some dire forecasts. It was even more disastrous potentially than anyone could expect. The point is that there has been a net neutrality regulation from the government that providers of internet service cannot choose one type of content over another. They had to get away and just allow the internet to actually work, as opposed to maybe throttling back some access to BitTorrent, which is a movie distribution environment where people can actually grab a hold of movies, and with copyright infringement, they can actually download that to their own computer. The whole point is that the environment is now going to be open for a free and open market, where the providers of the net, the internet access that you hopefully enjoy with Edge of the Web Radio and online with our podcast and app, that there's going to be some areas where that provider can potentially charge you more for your access and your usage.
Right.
Okay.
And access on the company side too.
Absolutely.
So if you're a Netflix, maybe you have to start paying Comcast.
That's right.
And that's where I have a problem with it. Here's the thing. You know me when it comes to government regulation.
Absolutely.
I don't want government in anything.
We're in the same boat there.
But we started this incredible stage of human life called the internet
before we knew how we were going to use it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And we set some ground rules to that.
Yep.
And then we invested trillions of dollars into it in businesses, and it's working. It's
Absolutely.
Working fantastically.
Yep.
And so my problem is that all of these businesses set up given those rules, and now the rules have changed. Mm-hmm. And so I have a problem with, I gave a couple scenarios out. One was, so let's say Comcast, who owns a majority of the gateways, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, what else does Comcast sell? They sell streaming movies online.
Absolutely.
So what happens when Comcast says, you know what, Netflix? We're going to slow down we're going to cap your bandwidth. Mm-hmm. You're taking up too much of our bandwidth.
And it's a conflict of interest. Any way, shape, of how you look at this. But at the same time, I got to ask you, if we, I really do think that consumers control the market. So if they see that Comcast is going to throttle Netflix, I'm going to change to AT&T.
Here's the thing. You will, but the majority of consumers will just go, Netflix sucks. I'm going to start using...
But if they charge the user, and if Netflix shows to the users, hey, we're getting throttled here.
I know.
That's the free market. That truly is. The dollars will actually change and dictate open fairness policies.
If it started that way, I would agree with you.
Okay.
But the problem is that all these companies and investors set up based on a clause.
Right.
They based all of their decisions on that, and my problem is small business, right? Small business how do you afford to, if you start, we started Circuit Press, right? And so what happens when Circuit Press, I don't know, we start sending a ton of email out and it's doing fantastic. And all of a sudden these guys come to us and say, hey, we're capping your ability to send out so much email unless you pay us. Well, I don't have billions of dollars of investment money.
No.
I don't have. So how do I now compete, with those guys?
You're right. I think there just needs to be consumer advocacy alerts and knowledge of how the internet is being managed and massaged by these different ISPs.
It's a tough one. I just feel the ones that I feel bad for are like small business and investors, because I think some businesses that have already started and are taking 5 years and almost ready to make a profit.
Right.
There's a risk now. There's a risk that they never, ever saw coming. And that's that all of a sudden. And with video, it's huge.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? There's a digital asset management systems, video technology sites, streaming sites, all of these things now, all of a sudden, they could have this additional
now they're
expense.
commoditized. Yeah.
And they were barely making money before. Now all of a sudden, these guys can say, hey, you know what? Enough's enough. We're going to start blocking your stuff. Oh, man.
I tell you what,
could raise some turmoil.
I could also be completely terrible public relations for those companies.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I'm with you, and I understand your side of the coin here.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
Back when the internet, started and corporations took over and exploded it, because believe it or not, the government didn't make the internet happen.
Not even Al Gore?
Yeah, not even Al Gore.
Wow.
They invented it, true, but it wasn't until corporations took it over that they saw the value. Back then, if there was the opportunity, and there was, I don't know if you're as old as I am from a geek standpoint, there was talk back then of having multi-layers of the internet.
Right.
That there was going to be
internet too was
there was going to be slow layers and fast layers and everything else.
Absolutely.
And so the decisions were made back then to say, no, we're just going to have one quality here.
Right.
And so that's my problem is we set a ground. It's like, say, in the highway system now, hey, let's just, section it off a mile at a time and sell it to the highest bidder. And,
right.
And now the post office, now UPS pays the Greenwood, Indiana cops to stop every FedEx truck and hold them for a day,
But that's exactly that point. The Postal Service could not maintain its delivery, and it's completely overloaded. It can't function, and the corporate environment, the private sector, delivers it because they are getting paid to do so, and consumers are paying paying for efficiency, and that's a perfect connection to the courier service has evolved.
And what happens? The government takes it over.
Then they bail it out, and now we own FedEx. Yeah, we're not going to go there.
No, I'm mixed. I'm a free market guy,
Yeah, you are.
It's just that I feel like we set some ground rules here, and now we're changing gears 20 years in, and it's like, wait a second, nothing was built on those ground rules.
I know. Okay. Hey, did you know we had an article that we were going to cover in this segment?
Yeah. This is good.
This is important. It's important stuff.
It's important like 5 years from now, right?
Yeah.
It's not today. They're not gonna do anything
No,
drastic,
and you're not going to have the silent scream of small businesses around the world, and I guarantee you that internet providers are going to be cautious about how they start to govern, if they do. I think it may be a wild goose chase, or what do you want, a red herring.
Yeah.
Claim that all of a sudden ISPs are actually going to start throttling.
I agree. It's not going to be all of a sudden. It's going to be gradual over time. But
Right.
There's big senders out there. Google, of course, is a huge sender, and Yahoo is a huge sender. They'll be able to afford to kick back to some of these companies to get some greater bandwidths and stuff, and it'll happen.
Absolutely,
it'll be gradual.
No, I agree with you. Okay. Well, on that note, I'm going to end with Google and talk about monopolization. I'm just going to share this last article.
Let's do it.
iPod creator Fidel actually sells Nest, helping Google in its rivalry.
Saw that.
All right, check this out. Google Inc. have struggling to catch Apple Inc. in consumer gadgets, is turning to one of its rival top former executives to help narrow the gap. Google actually bought Nest Labs, the digital thermostat maker led by Tony Fadell, a former Apple senior vice president. They bought it for $3.2 billion in cash.
$3.2 billion for a thermostat, huh?
For a thermostat. These things are cool.
They are cool.
They are so cool. You can control every room in your house from your smartphone. Now, at the risk of being a little bit weirded out here, is that Google now getting so far into our space, they're going to know a heck of a lot of data, and
Well, I think Google is setting itself up well for like the next decade. And that's not, that's like 2020 and beyond, because they bought the robotics Boston.
Right.
Who's it? Boston? I don't know. The robotics.
The robot company that was delivering robots for the military, right?
And that's And so I feel like Google's the driverless cars, things like that. I feel like what they're doing is a very good investment decision, and they're saying, hey, computing is going cloud,
right,
and it's going to become a utility just like everything else,
right.
What's the next phase of technology that we need to be on top of? And Nest, I feel, is another robotics, type thing.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Edge of the Web Radio with Aaron Sparks. We're online with exclusive podcasts, the latest web news, and links at edgeofthewebradio.com.